Hello, everyone. Welcome to the HoloNet Hot Takes podcast. I'm your host, Tom Larson.
And I'm Ben Corey.
And we're here to talk to you about all things Star Wars, really.
Thoughts, questions, opinions? Are we into it? We're into it. All right, guys. All things Star Wars. Me and Tom are big, fat nerds of any degree. Just like most normal people, I'd say. Big fans of Star Wars.
Yeah.
Big fans of everything that's been happening. It's kind of a weird time to be a Star Wars fan. I think we both agree on it because it's kind of the most content that's ever been made. And it's something that we're kind of grateful for, but also critical of.
It's a blessing and a curse for sure.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that. Lots of content, lots to go over. We're hoping to do this weekly, so stay tuned. Keep up to date. Follow us on all our socials. We'll drop the links below. But yeah, let's get into it. So what's going on? What's happening with Star Wars?
So it is Acolyte season finale eve as we speak at this moment.
It is.
It has been a weird show. I think we can all agree that there are some faults to it, objectively speaking. It's a weird show, for sure, and me and Tom have talked about it a lot offline, and it's kind of why we started to talk about this podcast as an idea, is we think it's unfairly hated for a lot of reasons.
Yeah, for sure.
And we think it should be hated for other reasons, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's not like not like we're going to be reviewing it in the best of light. Spoiler alert if you haven't seen it, if you can like it. And that's one thing about this podcast. You can agree with us. You can, disagree with us. Let us know what you guys think. But these opinions are our own. And I don't think we have too many good opinions about the Acolyte coming up. But that said, I think it needs we need to look at it from kind of an objective point of view here.
Bird's eye view. And I think the important thing for us is, like, when we criticize a piece of Star Wars content, like something like The Acolyte, or, for me personally, it's Boba Fett, as a TV show, even though I love the character, is like, it's not a criticism. We don't hate the shows. We're still watching them. We're still enjoying moments of them. It's still, Star Wars. You can't hate it that much.
It's hard to hate Star Wars.
But
really.
You can be critical of it. You can be critical. You're allowed to, have things that you don't like, and you're allowed to have things that you do like. And I think that's what this podcast is about. What we like, what we don't like, and why. And putting clear thoughts in it. And we love to just kind of have a dialogue with you guys about what works and what doesn't. So, Tom, opening thoughts about The Acolyte.
Opening thoughts. I think, what are we, 6, 7 episodes in?
We're 7 episodes in.
We're 7 episodes in.
Finale tomorrow for episode 8. $180 million. 8 episodes. Is that a controversial talking point?
I think so. And, I like to put it in perspective, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's take Andor. Considered one of the better shows.
Yeah, but with low viewership.
Low viewership, but it had, a $200 million budget for 10 episodes, hour long each. Now, this is only minus $20 million. We're getting only 8 episodes, and at that, they're 30 to 40 minutes deliverables. The math ain't mathing on that.
So, for the extra you'd rather spend the extra $60 million for something, a little prettier.
Yeah.
A little longer.
Give me more content.
Yeah.
I know we're talking about, we have all this content and stuff, but I don't know, the 30 to 48 minute episodes for a show like The Acolyte, for Bad Batch, for Clone Wars, I get the 20 to 30 minute episodes. Those work. Mm-hmm. That's tried and true format. It works. But for a show like The Acolyte, like Andor, I think it should be longer episodes, and you're able to have, able to expand on the story some more, answer some questions that may be causing some issues. Just better storytelling, I think, is what it boils down to.
So production value might be a little wasted in a format this way.
I think so. And I think it shows. Visually, stunning. I love the visuals
Action.
of Acolyte. Action. Episode 5, are you kidding me?
Amazing.
That was the best.
Even the flashback episode of last week.
Yeah, it was actually really
Yeah,
surprisingly good.
Yeah.
I know people have complaints about the writing, and we'll get into that for sure, trust me. But the main thing is, like, the production's beautiful. It looks gorgeous. I love the costuming, the characters, the designs, the different planets and stuff. But it just seems wasted on a bad story. And if they just had those maybe 20 minutes extra in each episode, it could, I don't know.
Get into it more, get those finer details.
Yeah.
Maybe add a little extra storyline in there. Something like that.
Yeah, at the end of the day. What about you? What are you
So,
thinking?
before we go any further, I think we need to address like the big hot button topic of the Acolyte. As we're talking about it, is just all of this like woke hatred. Everyone hates the Acolyte, you know. 2 space moms have a forced dyad. How does that happen? And we've kind of gotten it explained in episode 7. And this is my big take for the Acolyte, is that essentially this show should not have been an episodic release. This show should not have been an episodic release. Releasing this show, it should have been a back to the old formula of just dump it all at once. Dump the whole show at once. Let everyone binge through it as fast as they can. I know that's kind of economically not what people want to do anymore. That's not what Disney Plus is trying to do. But in terms of story and enjoying it, I think a lot more people would be getting to the end, and a lot more people would hate this a lot less.
Yeah.
Because those things, those questions that happened in episodes 1 and 2 that got people so outraged, they're getting answered. Like, this is like kind of, you know, a horror mystery, like a mystery kind of, you know, detective. We're kind of searching for clues and answers, and that doesn't work with Star Wars fandom. I think it's really difficult. And, you know, when people can't, you know, point to something directly and like understand why the story isn't working or why they don't like something exactly, they're going to point to these characters that really have no reason to be hated. Yeah. Like, none of these characters and none of like this woke stuff has any bounds. Like, there's no ground for it really. Like, it's Star Wars. It's a giant universe. It's kind of like the Lord of the Rings, you know. Everyone got mad when there was, you know, diverse elves. Yeah. It's like, it's fantasy, guys. Like, it's fantasy.
No, and as we discussed, it's off camera is the whole, it's like, we don't need to politicize it. Like, everything's getting politicized. There is no point to politicize Star Wars. No matter what the creators say, what this or that say. You know, like, interviews aside, this and that, just, you know, go into it as a fan. And that's really what I think we've both been trying to do. Yeah. Of just, you know, block out what everyone's saying online and really take it in as a fan of Star Wars. And I know that's, yeah, it's just, it's, I think it boils down to bad storytelling.
Yeah. I think that's kind of the rough part is the format and the way it was delivered. And I do feel pretty bad for Leslie in some aspects, just because people go straight to her background when they're trying to explain stuff of like, oh, you know, she did Russian Doll and, you know, she's a lesbian. Like, people get into all of this crazy stuff before they even consider her a chance as a good storyteller, and they find those one things that are wrong with it. And, you know, she is a good storyteller, like, hey, like it or not, like, you know, she's good at her job. It's just, did this project itself really work for her, for Star Wars? And I don't think so. I don't think the format of a mystery kind of like discovering clues along the way is a great way to introduce yourself to a Star Wars fan base.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm sure we'll touch upon this in a later episode as well, but I kind of compare it to the whole Rian Johnson and Last Jedi. You know, we have this entity, this Star Wars genre, like it's its own thing, you know? Yeah. And in that way, Star Wars has become this auteur, it's become this thing bigger than itself, and then these directors come in, these storytellers come in who are provenly good storytellers. I mean, you can't say Rian Johnson is not one of the great modern filmmakers, you know, contemporary filmmakers. But now you have two clashing ideals. You have Rian Johnson's vision and then Star Wars as an entity's vision. And when one tries to impose itself on the other, and I think this is what we're getting with the Acolyte,
Yeah.
it doesn't add up. And it's not like the person themselves, like we should hate them, we should criticize them themselves, but it's an example of their work not, you know, being in conversation with Star Wars or with what people have expectations of Star Wars, you know? And yeah, it's unfortunate that it happens. But that's just kind of the name of the game. That's the business, right?
Yeah.
It happens.
Now let's get into my confusion here, because there's this one aspect of the Acolyte that really confuses me, especially in regards to Leslie, is that why is she changing these small minor details like Kiadi Mundi and things like that when she's so clearly done her research in so many aspects? Like, she pays attention, and she'll insert minute details. I mean, she's like really honoring like a lot of these High Republic books, which is really interesting to me. But at the same time, you have this whole like Kiadi Mundi problem, right? Which is kind of a weird problem to have, and I don't know if it gets answered in the finale now.
And it's one of those problems that could have been completely avoided. And I know there's been a lot of discourse around this of, oh, just pick anyone else on the council at the time who didn't have a line. And like, why did you pick the one person that has the one liner in episode 1 about the Sith not being around? It's like, it seems like such an obvious, you don't do that.
Yeah.
And so to have that in such a, yeah, as you said, she's definitely storied. She knows her history of Star Wars. Why would you change that? And that is, and I don't know if we'll ever have an answer to it. Hopefully tomorrow we do get an answer to that. That would be great to find out why he was there.
I think that kind of gets me, because, you know, we had the Plo Koon switch. Like, that wasn't Plo Koon, but same species, looks like Plo Koon. Some people probably thought it was Plo Koon.
Dude, I thought it was Plo Koon.
Yeah, but it's not Plo Koon. So why not do the same thing? If you really wanted to have like a Cerulean in there, like, just change the name in the credits. Like,
yeah,
you know, he wasn't born yet. Like, you know, just change all of that, and we don't need to retcon something, and, you know, just get another Cerulean in there.
Seriously, it's not like it's like the craziest fix or like hardest thing to fix. It's and it just seems like such a, what was it, a brain fart? But I mean, also back to the point of you had $180 million on this, and you have that big of a brain fart. That I mean,
it seems like it's intentional, but it's just, I don't know how you fix it. Like, I'm excited to see if it is. I'll be really disappointed if it's not. But like everything so far has been intentional, but for her to change that means that she's bringing this Jedi that we see now of like a flawed order of space entity, space cops, into episode 1 and episode 2.
You know, and let's talk about that. We've talked about how this is a different Jedi than we've ever seen before. This is not the Jedi of the High Council we see in episode 1. This is not the Jedis we see in 1, 2, and 3, and in the Clone Wars series. Yeah. This is and not even the Jedi that we see post-Republic, you know, in the Empire with Luke, and, you know, if you want to get into Legends and that, that, you know, Obi-Wan, though, too. This is a different kind of Jedi. And how do you think that has played into audience reception?
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't exactly help you win out over the fans.
Right?
Yeah, to change the Jedi's, you know, vulnerabilities, their strengths, their weaknesses. I think it's really interesting that she's kind of gone with the route of like hubris and like too big to fail as the Jedi Order. I think that's something that's like a good, there's an interesting moral in there, but throughout our history and throughout the Star Wars history, that's always, especially pre-Empire, that has been the Republic. That's been their issue of hubris, too big to fail. The separatists are evil and stupid. They don't know what they're doing. We must end them, like stop them. It's kind of interesting to flip from that.
It is, and like, first off, can I say costumes dope? I mean, their design is awesome, but then it's like, man, these Jedi are kind of evil in some ways, you know, especially in the last episode. Spoiler alert if you haven't seen episode 7, but I'm assuming you have by now if you're excited for the premiere tomorrow for the
if you're
finale.
still listening to this.
Yeah, you probably you're probably caught up. Dude, that one I forget her name, the main lady Jedi that dies in the first episode.
Oh yeah.
What?
Yeah.
I forget her name. That's on me. But dude, she kills a whole coven with the Force in the mind. Like, I feel like there was another way to do that, you know, of like, oh, let me, you know, excise these demon witch ladies from my Wookiee friend's mind without, you know, mass murdering the entire race. You know? And then that also brings into question, how powerful are these people?
Yeah.
Like that's gotta take a lot of strength just to look into someone's mind and, you know, eliminate 20 beings.
Well, yeah. It's kind of a huge departure from how she dies in the first episode, where, you know, May just immediately she can overcome a 30-odd person witch coven with the Force, but she can't stop 2 daggers with the Force. It's kind of, there's a weird,
it's baffling.
It seems like it got a little out of control of, like, you know, we need a big set piece. It's episode 7. We're building up to it. How else do we kill the witches without, you know, like a big fight scene? Maybe we just brain kill them.
Yeah, and it's like, but then again, I'm going to go back to the production value. You couldn't have an epic like fight scene. You just like,
yeah,
I don't know. You had them swaying, and you had one shot on them, and they were just swaying, and then they died.
Yeah.
Like, was that really to cut on budget? Is that your excuse? Oh, we couldn't do a fight sequence. We couldn't
Wookiee fight sequence instead.
And it's like, give me both. Is that greedy? I don't know. You guys tell me. Yeah, it just seems like, why?
Yeah.
Why is one of my big questions throughout the entire series. It's just why. And I think it's not like, you know, we've watched a lot of, we've gotten so much Star Wars content, and we're so very lucky to have it. And, you know, as we mentioned, like, we don't want to be overcritical of this and that, but
we want a season 2. Like, we'll watch a season 2.
Yeah, like, dude, I'm watching it tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know, you put Star Wars in front of me, I'm gonna eat it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it just has me. I don't like sitting there and just scratching my head unless it's like a good why. Because I mean, storytelling. You want questions. You want stuff to be hidden.
Especially in a format like this. Like
where it is
all about
supposed
questions
to be,
and answers.
But I'm not saying why at the right moments.
Yeah.
That's my 100%. Issue, I guess. Is
yeah.
In a good story, you know, you're going to be asking why, and the you know, it should answer that question.
Yeah.
And you know, that's what I have with, like, you know, my mom and my girlfriend. Whenever I'm watching something, they're always like, oh, why is this? Why is that? And I'm like, dude, I haven't seen the film either.
Yeah.
But I know that it's going to get answered. And if it doesn't, it's a bad film. Yeah. The Acolyte's having the opposite problem of making me ask why in more of the greater Star Wars universe and Star Wars lore. Mm-hmm. And that's upsetting. Like, that's annoying.
Yeah. When you have to start justifying the logic of different things. It's like, this makes something else that I've already watched not make sense. Which, you know, I guess happens in some things, right? Like Clone Wars, everyone got mad when Ahsoka first came out, right? Because of like Anakin's Padawan, like it made no sense, and we're kind of just like, well, she's gonna have to die. Like she's gonna have to die before Episode 3. Like she's gonna have to, and yet they came up with this really clever way around it, and I think that's kind of more of my reasoning of like, stick with it. You have to finish this book before it's over. You have to watch the finale, get to the finale, then we can fully evaluate it.
You know, that's a great point about Ahsoka, and I think it goes even deeper than that. And we're 100% talking about the Clone Wars in a few episodes or whatnot. But they not only wrote her off once, they wrote her off twice.
Yeah.
They wrote her off
Jedi Order
in 5, season 5, and then they were like, okay, we make the weird season 6.
Yes.
Oh shoot, they want us to bring season 7 back. We have to rewrite in Ahsoka
Yeah.
and then make it match up the timeline with episode 3 so that canonically it makes sense.
Yeah.
With the dialogue, it makes
Yeah.
sense. With what George Lucas wrote years prior and created years prior, it makes sense and it works almost perfectly.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
And you just had to give it time.
Yeah. I think it's definitely going to be one of those tough things where how much time can you have before you run out of time, especially with this show. And I think, after the 2-episode drop, a lot of people gave up on it.
No, and that it's hard to overcome that because you give us 2 episodes, and I almost think, man, what if they only gave us 1 episode to start? Because after the first episode, I was a little more intrigued than I was after the second one. Because I remember thinking to myself, okay, this is going to be she gets framed for this over and over again until finally it's revealed that it's her sister, and then that's the great mystery, and like it's one of those movies of it's man on the run kind of movie. I mean, Ahsoka had to do it for a whole arc. That was how they got rid of her, right?
Yeah.
That's how the distrust between her and like that's a cool story. That's a tried and true story. I like that.
Yeah.
And then by the second episode, they were like, "Oh yeah, it's her twin. Yeah, I believe you, dude. We don't need to do any more about that." Which I think you set up the expectations in the first episode, and then you not retcon it, but then you solve it by the second episode. I'm like, how does that make good TV?
Yeah. And where do you go from there? Then you laid with the questions of the stranger and his May's mission to kill all these Jedi. Why? We still haven't really answered why those Jedi specifically. I mean, we assume it's because of what happened on the Witch's Coven, and they were the group that killed them, but why does the stranger give her that mission?
And also, how does May get in contact with the stranger? They never answered how she lived.
Yeah.
How she survived that fall.
I think, and we can get into it. How about we get into this? What are your predictions? What are your expectations? What are your hopes for season finale?
All right. Considering they're probably going to do, they're setting it up for season 2, right? So we got to keep that in mind. It's not going to be its contained thing.
You think we're going season 2?
I think we're going season 2. So I don't expect everything to be answered.
I don't have faith in season 2.
I think.
Do you want to know why?
Why don't you have faith?
I think the reviews have been too rough, and I think Disney is so scared right now to do anything adventurous.
The quivering.
Yeah, they're like, this cost us $180 million, and we got a lot of negative reviews, and we got reviewed bombed by the fans, and we keep upsetting our target fan base, and everyone is upset with us, and maybe it's best if we just go a different direction. Unless the only reason I see season 2 possibility is if somehow season 2 is going to set up something larger in the universe, something bigger, and answer a lot more questions. That's the only way they can justify it, I think, at this moment.
So my mindset going into the last episode is that they plan for season 2. Whether season 2 will happen or not, they plan for one.
Okay.
And so this episode will end on a cliffhanger, end on a setup for season 2, end on something to launch us into that season. So I don't expect everything to be answered. I expect us to have a lot more questions by the end of episode 8 than we do at the beginning. But I hope and pray they give us a reason how the heck May survived. Whether it was, hate.
Yeah.
Like, was it a
Darth
Maul situation? Was it hatred, pure hatred? Was it the Sith, or the stranger using his powers?
Yeah.
And, because now we know that the Force can heal and this and that. There's been a lot of liberties taken with the Force throughout Star Wars since.
Now we've got an explanation. Episode 7, the Virgins in the Force.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah, a Force dyad has given all of these special powers that Disney has created.
And it's like, okay, so I really want that answered. If I get nothing else but that answered, I'll be happy. And I'd like to know a little bit more about the stranger. I know we got a little bit of but also the arc with him and Osha just started.
Yeah.
Like their relationship
Yeah.
just started in the penultimate
Last
episode.
yeah. Episode 6.
So
yeah,
how the
and
heck
then you
is
do the
that going to get?
flashback, Episode 7.
Now you're only getting in episode 6. Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't even episode 7. It was episode 6
Yeah.
that was set up.
Mm-hmm.
You don't see them in episode 7, and now you got 40 minutes left to complete that, and that's why I also think season 2.
Yeah.
If she stays with
It's a lot
him,
to wrap
you
up.
need that. It's going to be a lot to wrap up, and if they edit it in some way, or they could have by now, right?
I think, yeah. Well, all right. Here's my expectations. There's got to be the big set piece where everything's revealed, right? So the stranger is gonna have to fight off, and Venestra will show up with not her apprentice, but this other guy who's, I don't know, kind of her apprentice, but not really.
Mm-hmm.
I think so. Venestra's gonna show up with her team. They're gonna meet Soul, wherever Soul is at, and then I think Soul is gonna have to explain to Venestra everything that's happened. I think we're gonna understand finally why Osha had to leave the Order, because that's still been a little vague.
That's a little vague
I
there.
think that's I would hope that is cleared up. I think you'd also want, and then you have the stranger and Osha arriving somewhat later, and you have your big fight, and either the stranger gets away, or he somehow does that and he reports to, I'm hoping it's Plagueis. I know it doesn't line up that much, and Plagueis kills him at the end. I would assume that would be my final, and that would be my dream ending, is him saying, I'm sorry I failed you, Master. Please, let me try again. I will fight for our freedom. And I'm sorry. Maybe it's because he's been trying to kill his master and kill Plagueis, or I don't know. But I would want Plagueis to show up and kill him. Maybe it's Tenebris.
Why didn't I even think of Plagueis? He was so far removed from my mind that's just kind of blowing me away. Would that save the show for you guys? Like, I know a lot of Star Wars fans are really big fans of Plagueis and his whole backstory, what the books have done for him, and giving him more of a character. Would seeing him live action do it for you guys?
I think that would probably be enough to give you a season 2, if I'm being honest.
I mean,
if you had a Plagueis season 2, I think a lot of people would
oh my
come back
gosh,
for it.
I think so, and that would be so fascinating, seeing Plagueis live action, like. And then do you give hints to him? I mean, Chancellor Palpatine, I don't know.
I think he's
still
far away.
Yeah, he's still far away.
He's
He's
far away,
more human. He's on that human calendar, kind of.
Yeah.
He's on that normal lifespan. Can't really pull like a Grogu or a Kiadi Mundi. you can't really insert him like you can Kiadi Mundi.
Yeah, if you change Chancellor Palpatine's birthday, I think you'll have a little more fans upset.
Yeah, that would
Kiadi Mundi.
That would kind of ruin a lot.
Yeah, you pretty much just ruin the Emperor.
That would be crazy, but yeah, Plagueis. That would be a fun way to cap it off. I'd be interested. So, let us know in the comments what you guys think. Any predictions you may have, and if you're watching this post episode 8, because I'm sure many of you will.
Yeah.
Comment how much stuff we got right, or what you.
Yeah, please, what we got right, because I know our initial instinct is going to be what we got wrong.
But let us know if there's anything that we nailed.
But yeah, I think I hope we got some stuff right.
Dude, that'd be cool. That'd be really cool.
That'd be really cool. I think, but the set piece is coming. Like, we've been waiting for this set piece where everybody all gets in a room or a planet. Or
dude, it's
whatever.
gonna be nuts. I hope. Gosh,
that has to come.
I hope the light whip comes out.
I'm still confused by the mechanics of the light whip.
Oh,
I'm gonna be honest.
Extremely confused, and the fact they used it for 1 second just to get that little bug thingy.
Kill the bug.
I think that was just more of a cash grab, buy it at the Disney parks kind of thing. But I would love to see it in use. I would love to see it more.
Yeah, I'm curious because it really reminds me, and this is kind of like a weird throwback, but you know the Zygerian slavers in Clone Wars?
Yeah.
I know this is a lightsaber, like it's got a lot of other functions, but like, what's the difference between the Zygerian slaver little whip and this one? I mean, this one obviously cuts through a lot more, and you know it's like half lightsaber, half sword, but you know, I'm like Zygerian light whip seems adjacent in some weird way.
Forgot that we had those.
Yeah. It's a weird little.
But those things don't really cut through. They're just
they're
whips.
literal whips. They're like electrical
Whips. Yeah. That was crazy. Clone Wars was wild for that arc.
So Tom, I have a pitch.
You got a pitch.
Yeah.
I'm hoping it's a good pitch.
This is So this is our first podcast, and all right, we've talked about the Acolyte. We've done our obligatory, talk about the Acolyte. It's good. It's bad. Whatever. Form your own opinions. I don't know how many minds we can change with this thing. Everyone just seems so dug firmly in their positions of it's good or it's bad. At least that's what it looks like online. Most people I talk to are kind of just like, the what? The
what?
What's happening? There's a Star Wars show out right now. I don't know and I think that's because the review bombs. I think everyone kind of gave up on the marketing for it. They were like, this is a rough time. But anyway, we've talked about the Acolyte. I want to pitch you my first Star Wars TV show.
Ooh.
That is separate, and I think fans would enjoy more than the Acolyte. And that is why I want to pitch it to you.
Awesome. Let me hear it.
So, this show takes place in the fall of the Old Republic. Right?
Fall of the Old Republic.
Yes.
Before that's before High Republic, right?
Yes it is. This is right before, the Sith Wars are happening.
Ooh, okay.
So, and fans, the timeline is loose. We're taking a loose timeline, nothing is too set in stone here, so we're being flexible with the timeline. I think there's a lot of room for flexibility in this era, and we might move some people in and around their timeline, but it's Legends, it's not canon, so Leslie Headland approach, let's do it.
Not Kiadi Mundi, I hope.
Alright. Yeah, Kiadi Mundi is not showing up.
He's not showing up. No. Okay, good.
All
Let's get that out of the way, No Kiadi Mundi.
Alright. Okay, so here's the pitch. This is a Game of Thrones style TV show that takes place in the Mandalore system.
Ooh.
Right? So, in the fall of the Old Republic, we are seeing the foundations of Mandalore. And the original Mandalorian system that we hear talked about so much in Clone Wars, and even in the Mandalorian, of like, these old ways are so much better than the new, this is the way, all of this stuff. Essentially, what the Mandalorian's clan is trying to honor in a lot of ways is what this show is going to be about. So, the pitch is essentially, we have a Game of Thrones style clan v clan, all trying to take the throne of Mandalore.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I like it.
So, if we want to get into it more, this is what's interesting. So, I've done my light research on trying to stay as honorable as I can to the source material, but there's only a video game and some odd mentions here and there of what's actually happening. So I think in the same vein of some of these great shows, you want to start off with stability, everything's in power, and the inklings of things are going wrong. And that starts with Clan Baelor.
Clan Baelor
is ruling the Mandalorian system, right? They're in charge. They're ruling with an iron fist. People seem to be okay with it, but not too great. Things are a little shaky, right?
Mm-hmm.
Some of these clans are not really liking House Baelor here. And,
Gotcha.
it all starts with House Kreese. I think we're bringing House Kreese back. We got to see the foundations,
Let's go.
right?
I'm in.
Right? We need some flashbacks, see the heritage, I think they're the first ones to rise up against.
Kreese.
I think that's in their nature,
To rise up? Yeah.
To rise up, to go against the grain, to do things differently. I think they're the first ones to see this inkling of like, this is not the way we should be doing things. We're not just a band of, because back then the Mandalorians, as much as they weren't as much of a people as they were just a tribe of like bounty hunters who just kind of settled here, right?
Yeah. No,
So,
they were
yeah.
people
you didn't have
with
to be
their
a certain species. You
own
didn't
beliefs.
have to be anything. The same way as in the Mandalorian, you can be a foundling, right? Doesn't matter who you are, you can be found and join the Watch and join the Mandalorians.
Going off of that, to kind of interrupt, sorry.
No.
Do you have any ideas for any like cool new foundlings or any visual imagery for like the possibility of a non-humanoid foundling?
That's a great little question there. I think it would be really interesting to see some people. I think it would be really fun for like a pirate to be indoctrinated into the Mandalorian, like, culture. But for me, I want them all to wear the helmets, right? You all have to wear the suits of armor. So I don't want to get too much into the details because I'm seeing them all in suits of armor, and then every once in a while they're taking the suits off. So you can't really change the helmet design too much.
Which I love. No, yeah, and that helmet design is iconic. Those costumes are like everything. Those everything we love about Star Wars is
in there.
In those
and
costumes.
I think what's great for it is that there's room for edits and changes in terms of timeline. Like you can see it as a little more, Old Republic, old fashioned, more regalia, more like medieval inspired. I think would be really cool.
That'd be dope. Yeah.
Yeah.
Instead of like the clean Beskar of the, of the Mandalorian or Bo-Katan with her design.
Something that's like super manufactured. You have something more like the armor in the Mandalorian show.
Gotcha.
Or
like the chainmail kind of.
You can have horns and like little gold ornate things, and like you can change it a bit.
So ways to like differentiate yourself from others.
Exactly.
Like kind of what the clones did in Clone Wars with their different
exactly.
imprints, their different designs or tattoos.
It's not mass manufactured because they're not in an all-out war with anybody else yet. / each other maybe.
Ooh.
But going on, so essentially House Grease starts to rise up, and all of these other clans get punished for it. In this, and at the beginning of the show, we're also going to see Tar Vizsla, the original Mando Jedi.
Ooh.
The original Darksaber creator. He is going to be one of our main heroes. So he goes off, and he comes back as a young Padawan to Mandalore on this weird mission. He's kind of got stopped by with his master, and he realizes that his clan is like in all sorts of trouble. His clan's in trouble. His people are suffering at the hands of House Brayler. And so, halfway through the season, he becomes their messiah. He rises up. He becomes Muad'Dib. He is like those images that we see in the hieroglyphs of like Rebels, where he's holding his hand up with the Darksaber, and everybody comes to him, and he unifies the people.
He's him.
He's him. He's the guy. And he comes, and it's all about how Mandalore struggles under his rule, and how all of these houses and clans decide if they want to follow or not. Because again, the Mandalorians and the Jedi, history has never been good between them.
They don't like each other.
Yeah.
From what I recall, that's the reason why Mandalore becomes a desolate planet in the end.
There's a reason
gets
why
this
they
little
have
dome bubbles things.
So we get to see all of that. That is what we want.
Which I think is such a crazy image, not to go off on a tangent, but in Clone Wars, like, they do a couple wide shots of them going into the bubble, and
Then you're like,
dude, this planet's huge,
yeah,
but it is desolate because of what the
Yeah.
Jedis and the Mandalorians had beef.
yeah,
Like,
and their wars with each other.
holy cow!
Yeah. So essentially, this show is about Tar Vizsla, his rise to power, and his attempts to try to sustain his power. That's the big show. That's the big arc. I think there's a lot of great little morals in there about power. The same thing of like what's going on with Game of Thrones and House of Dragon. Who has the right to power? Who has the right to claim power? Because again, the Darksaber has not been cemented as a piece of history yet.
Mhm.
So just wielding the Darksaber doesn't mean that you get the throne.
The throne.
The same way that like Game of Thrones is like different people have a right to claim the throne due to succession. This is the same way of like if you kill this person, you have the right to the throne. So they're all trying to kill each other.
And will it get to the point at the end of the series, or like by the end of the show, where it's like kind of instated that whoever wields the dark saber, like that becomes like we see that myth realized?
Yeah, exactly. Whoever wields the saber, and maybe Tar Vizsla loses the saber for a bit, and somebody else is ruling with the saber because it's their prize from their battle. Maybe things are going on that shouldn't be, and all of a sudden that lightsaber changes hands again. Maybe there's a clan that's supplying everybody else with armor because they have the Beskar deposits underneath them. Maybe maybe the banking clan is profiting from all of this. Not the banking clan, because they wouldn't get involved with these tribal people, but maybe there's a rich Mandalorian clan like the rulers for a long time in Game of Thrones, who are so-called the rich ones.
Now, going into the details.
Yeah.
How many episodes? What do you think budget's going to be? What are you thinking release strategy?
Honestly,
what are you thinking?
I don't even think that far ahead. Like, that's not what it's about necessarily for me. I think, I think what would make this show interesting and possible, I think you could even do it animated. I think it'd be really interesting to do it animated, just because it gives you the freedom to do so much more. I mean, look at Clone Wars in comparison to everything else. Like, you can do just so much more. But I think what you want to do is you want to have a relatively longer season. I wouldn't be opposed to like a 12 episode little beginning, middle, and end. I think it gives you room to do a lot more of like to see Tar Vizsla as a Jedi, to see him come back, to see him abandon the Jedi, steal his lightsaber and come back, to see all of these other characters who are now representing their clans and how the politics and intermakings work within them, and like how they're all trying to connive for power in a different way. So I think 12 episodes. I think the format doesn't matter as much, but I think it's supposed to be a TV show. It's supposed to be an epic. Like it is.
Yeah.
It's an epic scale. It's an epic show. I think
like
that's what it would be.
Like a one season, one and done. This is the story, or
no? It has to be. Yeah.
We'll continue.
Think it's the same thing of like you. I think what again, as we were talking about with the Acolyte, of like, it's different in the sense that like, the Acolyte feels like it should be 2 seasons. Like it feels like they have a lot more to answer for, and that's kind of a double entendre.
Well, yeah, no, that's about right.
But I think the way that this show needs to be is that you can always cap it off at the end of a season, like how Clone Wars was with 5, 6, and then 7. Of like, this show should always have a completed story, but there's always more things happening. And I think that's the beauty of having a show where like different people are trying to grasp for power, and it's 1,000 years before, is that you have enough room to where wherever you leave it, things can write itself in legends, storylines, and like supplementary materials. Like you can write the ship so that you're not leaving anything in a weird way, which is kind of weird because the Acolyte seems far enough removed, but yet evidently not, as we're talking about Plagueis and like all of these key foundations.
Yeah, and that's one of the things about the Star Wars galaxy though, and I think as time goes on and as it grows, history becomes smaller in a way, you know, how things become way more intertwined than we think. You can't be that far removed. You can't get as far removed as you think you're able to.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you see that with like the inklings of the First Order coming to rise in Mandalorian, and like you see, you know, there still are Thrawn being at the end of Mandalorian, end of Ahsoka, Ezra Bridger coming back in Ahsoka, like all these characters continue to pop up and populate stuff, but like it's like you wouldn't think. And I know that canonically they're very close, but you would never think of Ezra Bridger and Anakin Skywalker in the Clone Wars, but they're more connected than you think through Ahsoka and like that direct. And so it's just history's getting smaller in the Star Wars galaxy the more we add to it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, this Old Republic stuff, it would be far removed, but how far removed
are you going to go?
Is really feasible.
I think that's another thing that I like about that era, though, and making like a piece of content or a story that exists in television/movie format is that there's a lot of space to make it your own, and I kind of wish that one of these filmmakers went there, because I think a lot of them are trying to make things their own, and this is a place where you could. I think that's something that I wish people experimented with, because it's the only movie that I've seen do it is Rogue One. It's the only like new piece of live action / film Star Wars since Disney that's slotted into an era that is so tight and it's worked so well. Like the Acolyte, I think, struggles. I'm curious to see what Dave is doing with The Mandalorian and Ahsoka and his new movie coming up. I'm hoping, but it just seems so difficult to just explain the rise of the First Order in so few minutes.
Yeah.
I like The Mandalorian. I think The Mandalorian's great. I think Ahsoka was decent. We can talk about that in the future because we are running out of time here, but I think what I like about this idea, and if Star Wars, Lucasfilm, if you're listening, you can have it, is there's space. There's room for you to just experiment. Kind of like what the Clone Wars did, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where you had an uncertain amount of time-ish. Like you had enough room for there always to be another battle.
Yeah.
And
you had the excuse for it too.
Yeah. Like you were like, okay.
No one's going to question that there's going to be war in the Clone Wars.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, all right, there's a problem on Seleucamai. Guess we got to go to Seleucamai. There's a problem on Ryloth. Yeah, let's go to Ryloth. Like, no one, like, you can't really get into those issues. Like, yeah. So I think.
No, I get what you mean. But it's interesting to think that, like, you would think that Acolyte has that space, and yet they've found a way to make issues for themselves. So that would be the only thing that you got to be aware of when, developing this and writing this and
100%.
that is like, you have space, but don't get greedy.
So much. Yeah. Well, you always want to leave it in a place that makes everything else make sense. Right? Yeah. And again, Acolyte is tomorrow. Are we gonna be left in a place where it all makes sense, or do we need season 2 to come in and rescue it? Do we need an add-on? Is there gonna be like a Dave Filoni another movie that
clutch
comes
up,
in and tries to like save them? Like, I don't know, guys. Like,
I mean, it's kind of frightening in a way, Where's the state of Star Wars going to be after tomorrow?
Yeah, where is it going to be in the next couple of years? Because, yeah, I don't know.
And I feel like
skeleton crew.
The idea that you're presenting here is one of those that could, like what Mando season 1 did. And I know it's just kind of riding a Mandalorian train, but there's a reason why the Mandalorians hit. And I think that would be something to revive the fandom in a sort of way.
Yeah.
You know, that would be something people could rally behind.
Yeah.
And like with the success of Game of Thrones and with the rising age, like the age of fans in Star Wars is only getting older, I feel.
Yeah.
Especially without the release of new movies and new content that is more targeted towards a younger audience. Like, a lot of the people that grew up with Clone Wars are old now. Like, dude, Clone Wars came out when I was 5.
Yeah.
I'm 21 now. Like, my mindset has changed a lot. And I know Lucas mentioned in his talk at Cannes, which we'll definitely discuss later in another episode, he was like, Star Wars was originally made for kids. And I think at the core it is.
Yeah.
But nowadays, audiences are maturing. And you kind of see that with a little bit of Andor and a little bit of Acolyte. There are some scenes where you're like, okay. And remember the whole episode 6 thing where they're like, oh, they're kind of sexualizing Star Wars and this and that.
I liked it, man.
Yeah, I mean...
Make Star Wars sexy. I'm with it.
And it can work if done right.
Yeah.
And I think, honestly, I didn't have any problem with it. It was just kind of there. And, like, even in Andor, dude, he goes to a strip club in the first 5 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that was crazy. That was wild. But it works. And it's like, that more mature stuff is where we can be heading if done right. And I think this would be an excellent opportunity to kind of explore those themes.
Yeah.
War, conflict, at a much higher level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think that's what I'm interested in with, Star Wars. And I think that's something that Star Wars has always had in its core is, dynamics of power. Who's in power? What does power look like? How do you achieve power? How do you achieve power within a structured system? How do you carve out your own little world inside the universe? I think those are all things that are important, especially with this little baby concept.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It should be interesting.
Yeah, it should be a little it should be interesting. We are excited and nervous. And a little scared.
Extremely, yeah.
For tomorrow night. We will have our thoughts and opinions.
Ready to go. Maybe we do live reactions to it. Maybe
we will definitely be.
Record ourselves live reacting or something like that.
My live reactions are not good, guys.
Yeah, maybe you don't want to see Ben's live reactions.
Streamers who is gonna go, whoa, scary,
See, I'd more
yeah.
I don't think I could post my reactions on YouTube and stuff and still be monetized after some episodes. No.
I just you can't get I'm not gonna put it on for camera, guys. We're here.
That's not what we're about.
Yeah,
that's not what we're about.
We're here to be stupid and bore you all to death with Star Wars.
Yeah. If you're still here, thank you for being here. That's wild that you made it this far. I mean,
this is way too long.
I think most people I talk to kind of clock out about 15 minutes into these conversations. So
yeah. So
kudos to you guys.
We'll look at the analytics, and I'm sure 15 minutes people will be like, all right, they've talked about Acolyte for long enough and didn't take a stance.
Oh, man. But if you guys want to stay up to date on all things Holonet Hot Takes, be sure to follow us at our socials, linked all down below. Join our conversation. We're really excited about being online now.
Yeah.
And if we're small enough. If you want to give us your own opinions and
we will talk to you
dude, guys. DM us, tag us on Threads. We like Threads a lot right now.
Yeah, Threads has been surprisingly a lot more positive than Twitter. I think if you guys are looking for a positive Star Wars fandom experience, I would go check out Threads because I think everyone there is happy.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird, but
and a lot more responsive.
Yeah.
We've gotten a lot of good dialogue going already.
If you want positive Star Wars, go to Threads. If you don't want positive Star Wars, or if you are not a positive Star Wars fan, stick to Twitter.
Find us on Twitter too. We're on X. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's Twitter. I'll fight anybody about that.
That's fair. That's
Yeah, thank you guys.
Yeah, this was fantastic. Thank you for a great first episode, and we'll catch you guys next Monday. Same time, same place. You know where to find us, and I hope you enjoy. May the force be with you.